Hi there, and welcome to the ATS podcast with me, Will Brown, and John Soulsby, where we break down chunks of health and fitness information into bite-sized pieces, remove a bunch of the noise, and just leave what's relevant. Today we are on episode 24, season 2, episode 2, which is about creatine supplementation. And as per our last episode, we are skipping the off-topic just to keep these things a bit more timely. They weren't timing out to quite as long as we want. We want these to really, as the title suggests or the intro suggests, be kind of bite sized, easy to digest, easy to listen to, and very to the point. So today's chat is creatine supplementation benefits.
Yeah,
What can creatine do for you?
everything.
Everything. It's literally the blue pill in the Matrix.
Yeah,
The or the red pill. I can't remember which one. It's been corrupted by all
been
those
too long.
people. Yeah, it's been corrupted by all those political people. I forget which one you're meant to take to actually, wake up.
Both.
Yeah, both. Just slam them both at once and see what happens. Um, Creatine is I was about to say mineral. It's not a mineral. It is a
Oh,
huh?
compound.
Yeah, I was about to say it's a compound that's involved in one very specific energy system in the body. Good old phosphocreatine.
Yeah.
Uh, you're the one with a sports science degree, but if I recall, pretty much every energy system is in some form or in some way or form essentially trying to generate adenosine triphosphate ATP,
Mm-hmm.
which is
From
essentially energy for all basic life functions.
yeah.
And
Um.
during exercise, ATP is broken down, and that produces the energy.
Yeah. So it's broken down into ADP, which is
Hmm.
diphosphate. Big
Oh
big
yes, it
brain.
separates one of the
And
phosphates.
yeah. And you get an extra phosphate. And the nerd part of the creatine thing for the PCR chain is essentially creatine then grabs onto your little phosphate and then a reaction just chucks it back into an ATP so you can use it again. So you have this wee equilibrium thing that just spins around.
Yeah,
Um,
your kind of ATP, the rate which you can resynthesize ATP is essentially like the limit of your ability to continually perform.
yeah, and creatine is usually the limiting factor in that when you're exercising. So like you usually have plenty of ADP flying around and phosphates and stuff.
But
Uh,
creatine is the limiter.
yeah,
That's pretty interesting. The and that would be typically phosphocreatine is talked about in a very high intensity exercise context. Would that be correct?
yeah, it's super high. So it's like essentially it's
A few
anything that
seconds in
lasts
it.
under like 3-4 seconds is
Hmm.
mainly um obviously all these energy systems are used kind of all the time, but yeah, typically speaking, anything that's like 3 or 4 seconds long would use the what's created. I can't remember that name for it now, but yeah, the PCR chain.
Yeah, phosphocreatine something.
Yeah,
The so it's pretty safe to say that if you train or compete in a sport that has performance criteria in the 3 to 4 seconds or less of extremely high intensity effort, sprinting, any kind of sport where gassing somebody and running in 4 points or to score a goal or whatever the thing might happen to be, uh, lifting weights competitively, anything like that. It seems like creatine, so that you can boost up your phosphocreatine reserves or your potential phosphocreatine energy reserves seems like a pretty good deal.
yeah. Um,
Are there any downsides? What's
so
the trade-off with the unnatty life
yeah,
when you join the dark side?
um, you do indeed. You get a different color lightsaber, and I, uh, I don't know if there's any pure scientific downsides, as in like you take creatine, you get Y. A lot of people do apparently suffer from a lot of cramping when they take creatine,
Hmm.
but that's quite anecdotal. Um,
Yeah, I've my understanding of that has always been because it can increase the water content of muscle, although I'm not entirely sure if that is wholly muscle or like part water, part like sarcoplasm. Like I don't really know how that kind of mixes into the actual
So,
cellular volume.
so yeah, the reason that that happens is, again, I can't remember all the correct terms, but the additional creatine changes the osmotic or the osmolarity of your like muscle cells.
Uh-huh. So things can pass
So it
through them
just,
at different.
yes, well, it just sucks in a bit more water,
Oh yeah.
essentially. Um, so that's why you usually get a slight increase in body weight when you start taking creatine,
Mhm.
just because your body, your muscle cells have a larger like component of water in them. And then but it shouldn't keep increasing because it's just like that slight change at the start and then it'll just like level off. Um, but I do wonder completely in my own brain having like that of like if that's why some people experience cramps. Because the other issue is we don't, to my knowledge, currently have a definitive answer of why people get cramps either, or
Yeah,
muscle cramps.
it's a
Like
great
there's no like
yeah, it's
you
a
get
great
it's
question.
this. People are like, oh, it's always dehydration. You're like, well, some people are
Yeah.
pretty hydrated when they.
Yeah, to assume
So
professional sports players cramp up and they're not hydrated when they literally have
yeah,
like full-time employees essentially running about hydrating them at pretty much any opportunity. If you've ever watched a sporting event, I
yeah,
mean, there's literal people with crates of not just water, there'll probably be some sort of actual scientifically balanced mix of salt, sugar, and fluid to optimize performance because people take sports very seriously and I mean
mm-hmm.
they physically get to squirt them in their mouth now. Like they used to just have
Yeah,
to do it themselves, but now everyone's big diva energy, so they just get someone else to do it,
yeah.
which is pretty wild.
Um, so yeah, it's difficult to pinpoint on anything because I think there's like not enough known about the various reasons why different things happen. Essentially,
Oh, there's plenty known about creatine. Creatine is like the most researched
yeah,
thing in the world.
100%.
It's literally one of the few actual supplements that will do something and will actually work.
Yeah,
It's pretty good for muscle growth, weirdly,
yeah.
because it has effects on a various amount of cellular pathways that can lead to new muscle growth. There's a reasonable body of literature that uh, cite it for boosting formation of proteins that can create new muscle fiber, which is pretty cool. Which I imagine will be satellite cell transference stuff. I need to look into that a bit more.
Yeah.
Some minor stuff about it, like affecting the IGF-1 levels, which is just insulin growth factor, which again is another hormone that promotes muscle mass. If you ever heard of people taking human growth hormone, throw back to our Liver King episode. Uh, that is very much one of the popular ones to just stab in yourself.
Yeah.
There's also a small amount of research coming out now that it's actually very good for your brain, weirdly, because that is another area that uses, I believe, creatine phosphate. I'm not entirely sure if it is phosphate or if it's just creatine in a different form. However, uh, it has been shown to have some reasonable benefits. I'm just trying to pull something up with regards to the brain stuff. Mm-mm. Yeah, apparently uh, it's one of the energy things used actually in your brain, and is also apparently quite good for, or is apparently showing good signs of being beneficial for neuroprotection, which
Oh, that's
is
kind of cool. I suppose it makes sense that some a system that is as simple as ATP goes to two things and then
mhm,
goes back.
yep,
It is sensible to have in the brain so it doesn't take up too much space.
that's true. The yeah, meta-analysis of 200 or 6 studies, including 281 folk, showed evidence in, well, randomized control trials of oral creatine supplementation in healthy people. in a collection of 6 studies with 281 folk showed that short-term memory reasoning was improved by creatine administration. However, other things such as long-term memory, spatial memory, scanning, attention, executive function, response inhibition, word fluency, reaction time, mental fatigue were conflicting with their results. However, there was significant, or data significant anyway, improvement in short-term memory and intelligence/reasoning. So you have it there, folks. Creatine makes you big brain. Confirmed.
Brain gains, as
Mm.
well as yeah, I was also just double checking there as well. I was like going back to when you were saying types of exercise it's good for. It can also be really beneficial for endurance exercise
Is,
somehow.
is that because
It's
of
like
the funky osmosis thing with the cells?
yeah, well, and it's slightly counterintuitive because it's like well, it's rapid, but then so it's where when you learn about all these systems, they come you learn about them very separately.
Hmm.
But like your it's I think it's the phosphocreatine shuttle is what people call it. But essentially, that's like working all the time.
The 21 bus.
Yeah, but because it's working all the time, it's like peak benefit is in like really short, intense exercise, but it still works for like half an hour to 40 minutes. Like if you're exercising for 2 hours in like a cycling thing or a running event, it's still kind of slowly ticking over the whole time, which can take load off of the rest of your energy systems,
Hmm.
which is pretty cool. So the benefit for running, as an example, in creatine is obviously not as profound as like weightlifting, powerlifting, that sort of thing. But it's still pretty good.
Oh, I see. So I found the thing I was talking about. So the kind of very burgeoning research is like with Parkinson's. I remember it being used for some
Right?
sort
Yep.
of like cognitive thing because apparently Parkinson's disease is characterized by a reduction in levels of dopamine, which as much as everyone chats about with regards to their headspace is also a pretty key neurotransmitter.
Mhm.
And a very large reduction in that causes brain cell death, and then obviously a whole bunch of other serious symptoms involved in
Yep.
Parkinson's. It's a pretty grim disease.
It is indeed.
Um, However, so far they've only done it in mice. Again, large pinch of salt. Mice are not people. However, it did prevent 90% of the typical drop in dopamine levels. However, obviously there's no reason to suspect that has the same effect in humans. But
No. But I mean, there's a reason they use mice. They're pretty, like metabolism wise, they're pretty close. So
I also didn't
it's pretty
realize that
interesting.
weight training is a part of like a holistic recommendation for people with Parkinson's.
Is it?
Yeah, because apparently like the drop in dopamine levels and stuff can uh well, one of the symptoms I guess is loss of muscle function, and so some of the things they do to kind of
Yeah.
like either slow the degradation or try to like stem the flow of loss of muscle function is to just
Build more.
well also not just build more but also use it like
Yeah.
use it functionally with weights, which is pretty
Well,
cool.
I suppose yeah, that would happen to like if you or I even now stopped training entirely, like
Yeah, muscle
we'd
function
all
and
lose muscle
coordination and
function as
everything
well.
would probably tank, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though. Sweet. Even we're learning stuff on our podcast. Absolute
Yeah.
class.
Oh, apparently in at least one study, again, one study means fuck all. However, it's still like an interesting precedent to kind of build off of
Yep.
scientific process and all that. Um, People with Parkinson's combined creatine and weight training improved strength and daily function to a greater degree than a group that just did training alone.
Cool. I mean, I suppose it also makes sense based on what we've said and the fact that creatine helps, but that's class.
Yeah, but that's still pretty cool. I'm just trying to see if they have a quick. So
Um,
the people so they were doing chair oh, they were doing chair rise performance. Nice. Definitely older people.
yeah.
I can't wait to see what my chair rise total is for when I get to get to 70. Apparently it was 12% better than the only than the creatine only folks
Nice.
with a p of point 0.3, point 0.03.
I was about to say point three is terrible, but
No,
point
point
zero
zero
three is
three. Sorry.
good. Quick aside
Hmm.
for anyone listening who wants to read some science shit, if p values come up a lot, and TLDR of them is essentially it's a statistical thing of how likely it is to be random, like significant, or just like complete randomness.
Hmm.
And if the p-value is less than 0.05, the general consensus in the scientific community is that it wasn't just like random or the control or kind of just like chance or loads of other things. That means it's not significant. If it's less than 0.05, it's actually like thing we tested did Y, guaranteed.
Yeah,
Um,
it's pretty good.
yeah,
We could probably do like an entire episode on like how to interpret scientific
yeah.
data or like things to look out for in scientific data if you don't actually want to read the whole thing, but you probably should.
Um, and then I think one thing maybe to mention or talk about on creatine supplementation is a lot of people feel like you have to load it when you first start taking it.
Oh yeah, people think you need a load
And
phase. You don't have to. It does mean that you achieve full saturation quicker, but that isn't really significant.
no, I
Like
think
like
long term it doesn't really make a difference, and it
no.
also means you go through half your bag of creatine you first buy in about a week, and then go down.
Oh yeah, because the typical thing, or a lot of people would advise you load. So like a typical a dose for somebody under 100 kilograms would be 5 grams per day.
Yep.
Creatine's usually unflavored, and you usually just chuck it in any other beverage. I chuck mine in my protein
But
shake.
by the way, the my protein flavored ones banging.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I've got like a blue raspberry one at the moment. It's actually pretty good.
I just
Although
use.
that is it's pretty good for supplements.
I was about to say I
It's
use
not
it.
actually.
I use unflavored specifically because I accidentally ordered tropical punch once and trying to put that in chocolate protein was a bit boke. Um, but yeah, so most people would typically advise like, oh, just gotta load your creatine, bro. Do like 10 grams a day for the first week and then 5 grams like a thing
Yeah,
thereafter. That essentially just means you're gonna get to full creatine saturation maybe in like 5 days, depending on your body weight, rather than if you just did 5 grams a day, you get there in 10 days. Like,
yeah.
it's really not that big a deal. Like,
No,
um, anything else we can think of?
no, not really.
Yeah, TLDR, take creatine. It's really well. It used to be really cheap. I'm pretty sure you can still get it really cheap.
It's still pretty cheap,
It's pretty
especially
cheap.
especially if you're thinking about what supplement to take.
Oh yeah,
Creatine is probably still one of the cheapest ones.
if you're spending money on any other supplement that isn't just whey protein because it's food, you should be buying creatine if you are not already because it's actually good for you. It actually works, and
Yeah.
yeah, it could have loads of benefits that we don't even know about yet because the research is
Oh,
still very fresh and raw with regards
yeah.
to helping your brain and stuff, which sounds great.
One thing I would say before we log off on it, creatine is a naturally occurring compound. It's found in like red meat. Is mainly the main source of
Oh yeah,
creatine.
but you could
But
not eat enough red
I
meat.
was about to say the main reason supplementation with it is advised is good luck, have fun getting 5 grams a day of creatine from red meat. I can't remember the numbers, but I think you'd be on like 2 kilos of red meat a day, which is not good for you. Um,
So
yeah,
apparently, yeah, apparently there is 5 grams. Yeah, there's 5 grams of creatine per kilogram of uncooked beef.
there you are. Kilo of beef a day. Off you
Yeah,
go.
so you'd be on a kilo of beef a day at least, and that's beef. It varies. Apparently, it's only 3.4 grams per kilo in chicken and rabbit.
Yeah,
Eggs and fish
yeah,
also
not.
have creatine, but not that much bigger.
So you'd be on a kilo to 2 kilos of meat a day.
Good luck with that.
It's,
I
well, it's
hope.
also like to tie it in with everything else. The calorie consumption in your 2 kilos of chicken is wild.
Yeah, that would be pretty rowdy. How many calories?
Was like
How many calories are in 1 kilo of beef?
no idea.
That's per 100. I mean, we're looking at like I think we're looking at about 1,000.
So say for
1430.
you, so you're saying for your like average 80 kilo person with usual averages of like 2,000 to 2,500 calories a day, half of it is beef.
Yep,
just,
that's pretty
just to get
wild.
your creatine in. Yeah, so that's why you supplement with it. Just because
Yeah,
that
or
was
just take a little
a
five
thought.
gram scoopy, like a wee 5 gram
Yeah,
scoop in any beverage, and you'll be good. Cool.
look,
Right, we will catch you guys in the next one, episode 25, which is I've just got my note as the body morph type rant, so that'll be fun.
nice.